So I guess our first assistant secretary could be Les, according to the bylaws, and Shelley could be our second assistant secretary, because it does say we can appoint more than one if that's the pleasure of the board.
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
Okay, I went ahead and Emily works with the, I forgot what it's called. What is her title? With Dan Batchelor with the Center of Economic Development Law. And I went ahead and emailed her the indenture, which she has filed, the original indenture for the trust. And at the same time, I went ahead and got a tax ID number. So at some point when we need it, we can open a bank account. And then I also filed for a DUNS number, so we can use it on our grant. And that's all I have to report.
I think you confirmed this last week, but the insurance is in place for this board. Is that also correct?
Yes, it is. I went ahead and faxed the names to, it's through the Association of County Commissioners that the policy will be handled, and I was going to bring a copy of it, but he didn't get it emailed to me today.
Move to item number 4, consideration, discussion, possible actions regarding a motion designating a general manager and authorizing the performance of certain responsibilities by the general manager for the Avard Regional Rail Park.
Mr. Sutter, I thought we discussed a little bit about this last week, and then at this time we wouldn't need a general manager until we get something as far as our finances started. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Sonia, do you see an immediate need for a general manager?
This board will be making the decisions much in the general manager's capacity. I guess it would be whoever you're charged with leading and working on the day-to-day stuff, and I think you all are being contacted about that.
I move that we table it again until we get financing in place and see that we're going to have somebody there, but the board is still got to come to the board anyway. Am I correct?
I believe you are.
Yeah. So that's the motion is that we table it until further notice.
So according to that contract, Sonia, up until this point, that's been the law firm that's been used primarily for this project. Basically, it's to put in place the incremental tax funding, the district, and get that all in place and put that in motion. And then from this point forward, past phase 3, and I don't have that in front of me, so I can't tell you for sure what phase 3 and 4 are, but at phase 3, then we're simply paying them by the hour. If we call them, they're going to bill in 15-minute increments or whatever, at whoever we talk to and whoever calls. Is that right? The very first thing that we're going to have to do is review contracts with BNSF. If we get to that point, which we will rapidly, and if that happens, then we're going to need somebody to begin reviewing those documents. The other thing that's going to be necessary is that once we start bringing people into the park, those contracts are going to have to be renewed or reviewed by or drafted by somebody. Mr. Batchelor, at one time when in one of the casual conversations we were having with him, he said that those documents were available. The contracts that we would have with prospective users of the rail park that would come in, where we would be able to bill and receive income from that those contracts were readily available from the Port of Catoosa, and we have copies of those, and there was many of those that could be rewritten, with little expense, but they would have to be drafted by somebody of council. So I definitely think that we're going to need attorneys. As far as whether Mr. Batchelor is the one, as far as the incremental tax district, I'm sure he's the one that's done the most work on that, and he would certainly be had the most expertise as far as this project is concerned there. But as far as reviewing the other contracts, both with rail companies that we would be using or potential customers, he could very well, but wouldn't have to be.
The only, I mean, and there may be somebody that has an expertise in that, but some of the things that this board's gonna have to establish is like a business owners association. That's something that when you're setting this park up, that you're gonna wanna have in place prior to locating people into there. It's kind of like a homeowners association, but a business owners association. That's one of the things that's been discussed, because that can help offset some of the development costs as the park grows and maintenance. But keep in mind, we've looked at every way that we could possibly bring financing into that. That's one of the things that we had looked at. The other is you're going to have to establish the covenants and determine what can be in the park, what can't be in the park. Those kind of things this board's going to have to discuss.
I had a question, Ed, just kind of ran through my mind. We get this park established. Do we want to be the sole, for a better use of word, well, not necessarily a manager, but could we lease this park to somebody? And we just oversee what's going on? I mean, do we want to? I mean, when Burlington comes in and builds us a spur, do we want to have a general manager, so to speak, to oversee all this, or do we want somebody to manage this outside of our 5-man trust?
Sonia, do you have an opinion of what you think would be best for the park? I know you've talked to a lot of people.
I'm not sure I made this clear, but
You're just like a management group.
I would guess that, but I'm not sure. This was something that was going through my mind, and maybe would take some of the pressure off. Do we want to be the sole owner of everything? Or do we have to be?
Well, there's a difference between ownership and management.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we're going to have to purchase land to get this started. But
Les, if I may, I think I can shed a little bit of light on it from our side of it at least. The trust indenture was formed and drafted in the mindset that this board would be the managing and controlling entity of the park in total. Now, does that restrict you from leasing portions of it out or all of it out or doing something different management-wise? I don't know for sure whether it does or not. But our idea of it was, whenever we had the trust indenture put together, was that this board would be the managing entity of the park.
And as I found out, we have to have something in hand to go to a lending institution that's of real value before we can even borrow.
Right.
Now, I was not clear on what this entailed. How do we gain something of real value?
The next thing is designate a financial institution for the Avard Regional Park Authority. Since you're the treasurer, do you have a recommendation?
I recommend that we establish a fund in Central National Bank of Alva because that's where the county rests most of their operating funds, and I think that's probably a good place for it to be.
Question. Since we're hopefully going to be doing some business with various and sundry oil companies, and we know that an oil company is part owner in that, Is that a problem?
That's up to this board to make a decision on.
Would it be easier for you to out with state?
I don't want to propose any self-dealing or conflict there. That
So
would
you
be,
don't want it
well, I'm not really afraid of that because there needs to be multiple accountings done and the statement needs to go to somebody besides me, that kind of thing. It obviously would be easier for me, but I do not want to promote one institution over another. The only reason I picked that one was because that's where county government always has theirs. Mr. Royster brings up a good point,
there.
and it needs to be considered.
And we talked about that before we even
I
organized.
think if we're borrowing money, I think that might be a conflict. If all we're establishing is an account that we deposit money in, I think we could use either institution, just in my opinion.
We do need to consider at any point this could change, but all of the financial institutions within Woods County have been talked to about this project. And in fact, as a source of funding, all of the institutions have at one time granted that they would be interested in a participation loan towards the funding of this project. So all of that to say that borrowing money is at least a consideration among any financial institution in Woods County based on future needs.